The first S-curve that we see is based purely on duration. So this means that realistically in ProjectTracker you don't need to use costs or resources in your favourite project management software to create an S-curve. Of course we can produce curves based on resource or cost, and we'll look at these later, but by default it's by duration. So the curve that we've got produced gives us an actual line, which is the red, and that's up until the report date, and then the green from there on is the forecast to complete. So you can see in this project we're forecasted to complete sometime in 2027, whereas the planned completion was 2026, and that's signified by the blue baseline line. And we have some statistics here. So progress was captured to the 21st of February. Project 79.79% complete. It should be 97% complete, so we're 17% behind program. We should be at the 23rd of April by now, and we are 231 days behind program, so not doing particularly well in this instance. And then we have some data down at the bottom which we'll look at in a later video of how to configure that, but fundamentally this is the number of units that are being the actual work days that are being completed each day cumulatively for actual and planned information. So this is the default S-curve, and with any of the S-curve types we can turn on or off any of those lines, just unticking, changing the color, the line style. So we have the baseline 1 line on, baseline 2 if we had some data. We can produce an earn value line if you want, so in this instance it would be earn schedule, which is tracking here, and the data date line that could be turned off as well. We can turn on data labels just to give us the percentages by period, and line markers. So it's very, very straightforward to create an S-curve based on duration from scratch. The next one we'll look at is a physical percent complete. So with the duration it's using duration percent complete, but a lot of people use physical percent complete as the measure within their project management software, particularly P6. So this would adjust the curve to look at physical percent complete. I could look at cost. So this project has cost in it, so the curve has changed shape to show the cost as it's spent and earned. We could have a resource curve, so that is, we need to drill a little bit deeper there to select the resource type. So this one now is based on tons of steel being installed. Interestingly, that cannot be graphed within Primavera P6, but can be within ProjectTracker. Other graph types are we can show tasks starting and ending. So this is, rather than looking at the span of durations or costs, this is the number of tasks that are starting or ending within a particular period. So task ending, and the occurrence of milestones. There's no milestones in this project. So that is the quick introduction to S-curves. We'll look at that in more detail in the next video. In this video we're going to look at creating more detailed S-curves. So at the moment this S-curve is based on the whole of the project, but sometimes that doesn't tell the true story, in that it could be a specific trade or a specific part of the program that is performing badly or performing well, and that's not apparent from this S-curve. So this option, very, very powerful. So we can use different ways to interrogate the program. So we could either look at producing S-curves by WBS area, or we could look at it by coding. So in Primavera P6 that's activity codes or outline codes in Microsoft Project. So if we look at the code option here to have some idea, so we have a code library called type, and that contains the way that we've coded the project up into different disciplines. So if I choose to filter here by type, and then choose to create child curves, what that's done, that's created a number of sub curves, if you like. So here we can see we've got one for Project Novo internal secondary A, and it's a different curve type because it's looking just at that particular detail within the project of that particular section, and this enables us to drill down really accurately to interrogate our project. We can, if we want to as well, show that in a grid layout format, so as an overall one sheet report, so that management can see the detail, if you like. So this is a way of drilling down, and again that can be done with WBS, as I said. So we could just quite simply have two there, so we could see the whole project, the manufacturing or the installation area. If we took off the grid layout, we then have the option to click through the main graph. So that's a really powerful feature of ProjectTracker, being able to drill down to see the detail. This next video we're going to look at formatting the S-curves. There's quite a lot you can do with altering the appearance of the S-curves. We have looked already at one way, which is to change the lines that are displayed, all their columns, but from the View tab we can do a variety of things. Change the fonts, we can turn off this progress header here, we want to keep that clean. We could turn off the end date lines if we don't want to show the dates at the end. We can draw some progress lines in, so that draws vertical and horizontal lines to try and depict where we are ahead and where we are behind a bit more clearly. And the advanced data option adds some text down the bottom to show where we should be, where we are, and where we're behind graphically. So that just supports more the information up there. In addition to the curves, we can also add bar charts. So a live bar chart or a planned bar chart. We can turn off the data label. So this is useful. This shows us, because we've got a duration graph on, how much duration we're expecting to do in each period. But if this was a resource graph or a cost graph, how much we're looking at spending or how much labour we have. So this can also be used as a labour histogram. And there's a variety of options. We can accumulate it if we wanted, and if we were using a resource graph, stack them. This option is just to show where delays are shown in weeks or months or days or hours, however we want to show that. And here, if we have imported two baselines, we can compare against the second baseline if we wanted to. So again, off the Format tab, there's a lot of stuff that we can do there. This is probably the most powerful one, which is the Format button on the left hand side. So there's a lot of sort of smaller settings, if you like, showing percent signs in text in the data table at the bottom, decimal places, month formats, etc. Currency units. You can change the date display to show days, week numbers, week starts, month and years, etc. Or a percentage of time, and we can also circle weeks every 52 weeks if we wanted to sort of go from week 1 to 52, then week 1 on from there. Custom reporting date. So currently reporting is monthly, so the 1st to the 30th, 1st of the month, or 1st to the 30th, etc. But you can create custom reporting dates if your organisation works on different financial periods, for example. I could deal with these ones later. But the main one is data grid rows. So down here in the x-axis, you can see we have period actual units, period forecast units, period baseline 1 units, and the month and the year, which was dealt with in this display tab. But what we're here able to do is we can change this to period or cumulative, units or percentage. So if we wanted to show the percentage of actual done rather than the units, you can see now this shows the percentage we've done. If we were to accumulate that, which would probably make a lot more sense, you can see now we're going up to sort of 80% which equates to the 79.79 which we've got up there. So you can add more rows in by clicking on the plus sign, and you can select a variety of different bits of information, as well as the baseline's earn value or slip. So you've got quite good flexibility over what you display in this area here, so period, units or percentage. This is a sort of a small filter. We looked at sort of bigger filters on codes, etc., but here you can just choose only to show a curve on potentially critical tasks or tasks with float and less than a certain number of days, because sometimes an S-curve can be giving wrong data. If we're, say, ahead on activities that have got lots of float and behind on ones that are critical, it can show your on progress, for example. So that some people would use this as a way of drilling down to more critical activities. This deals with the x-axis, so pretty obvious, drawing the lines, the style of the line. So this is the x-axis line here. You can have obviously this is a long project, so if I was to go for days, it's going to look daft, but you're able to set the granularity, and you can have an axis at the top and the bottom if you wish. And similarly, the y-axis, so y-axis lines can be turned on or off, and you can set a right axis and a left axis. So the left axis we've got over here is cumulative percent, but it could be cumulative units, which is pretty good if you're looking at cost, for example. You want to see the cost as it goes up, and we could put period percent on the right hand side, so in conjunction with would make more sense with one of these. You'd be able to see how much percent of the project is being done in a particular period. So the bar graphs and the y and x axis are very useful in displaying information. So that's the main formatting that you can do. Some other little bits, but we'll come on to that shortly. In the next video, we're going to look at the different report types that ProjectTracker gives us. So the default and most widely used is an S-curve. So we've talked about that earlier, but we can change the type of report here. You can also display parts of the Gantt chart on the program if you wish. So there's two options really. One is to display the WBS. So the use of this is we can sort of see where work is happening, and maybe where we're diverging from where we should be, or alternatively we could show where the activities are sitting. So this is another useful way maybe of displaying information, so we can see which is causing potentially the issues on the program. So the Gantt, and that will get printed out as well. So the other options that we've got, as well as S-curve, is quite unique, which is, I call it the slip trend graph. So this goes through the program and shows in each period how much time we lost or gained against planned. So in this project, unfortunately, there's a lot of red, so we are well behind. But you can see in this week here, October 22, it was a bit more decent and we made up a bit of time, but then there was two bad months in this period here. So this is quite a very useful program to show where delays happened, where they're expected to happen, or where acceleration happened. That's called a slip trend graph. Next, we supply a simple dashboard. So this area here is a summation of where we are, so the start date of the project, the finish date, when we plan to finish it, much the same as the information that we had along the top of the S-curve, where we plan to be, where we actually are, etc., and how far we are behind. Then there's a subset, a smaller output of the S-curve, a planned and actual progress gauge, a pie chart here of tasks, number of tasks that are completed, in progress or not started, and here where activities have started as planned, or started later or started earlier. So whether finished late, started late, etc. And this one here, I think there's only one milestone in the project and it's probably critical, but that will display the milestone criticality. So this can all be printed out, as you'll see in the next video, on one piece of paper, but a very useful dashboard report. And then the progress chart is similar to the one we had on the dashboard over here, but gives us a bit more information, some analysis of the data, showing how the slip calculations are calculated, how the progress calculations are created. So more of a detailed progress report, again, which can be printed out. Then there's a quality report. Commonly people call this a DCMA report, where there's a set of metrics, so projects that haven't got baselines, projects that haven't got predecessors. So this again is not a great project. These are sort of common metrics that people use to analyze the integrity of the project. So, you know, there's a lot of high float activities in here, so it's not great. But the good thing about this is that by clicking on a bit of the pie, it'll come down and show us the activities that are causing the problem. So that will enable us then to go back to the project to resolve those. And this leads on to the activity report, which is again printable and shows all the activities in the program. So they're the different types of reports available. Very comprehensive, full suite of progress reporting, and obviously only 1 or 2 clicks to create the data from Primavera P6 or Microsoft Project. This video is going to look at exporting data from ProjectTracker and printing. So the first one I'm going to show is a simple copy and paste into another application. So for example, you might want to be doing a progress report on PowerPoint for somebody, or create an integrated reporting document in Word, for example. So if I just click copy here, whatever's on the screen, so whichever of the reports we've been showing, we can paste into our application of choice. So that's the first way of exporting data. The second way is to export to a text file, and why we might want to do this is if you wanted to get the information into another database, or to do the graphing within Excel potentially, especially if it's like resource data. But simply I'm just going to click that, I'll give it a name, and then I can open that up in Excel. So now we've got the data, rather than graph, it's the numbers per day, if you like, that we could then graph from there or export to another application. But I guess the most popular way of exporting is to print it. So you've got some options. You can set up the page setup, so issue date, revision date, version number, author, portrait or landscape. You can add a logo to the top left hand corner and a logo to the top right hand corner, so maybe your logo, a client's logo, and you could choose to spread it over a number of pages. Also you could time slice it. So we could here say I want to print the entire curve, or I want to just print a part of the curve, or a rolling time slice. So here we would have 4 weeks before and 4 weeks after a specific date that we've identified. Just you can also do a time slice report from the filter by here. So this would be slightly different in that this filter would only pull through activities into the curve that meet a certain date, whereas the print option will only print a subset of the output. So it will still have the same data as all the activities, but will only show a subset of the data. So once you've set your page setup up, you can preview it just to check it's all okay, and then you would want to go and print it potentially, print it to PDF or whatever. Might as well do it. And then we can go and find it, and there's our PDF print. But also quite or very powerful is, if you remember earlier, we were able to create multiple curves. So we've done it by code here on the type. So we've got a curve for each trade, whatever you want it to be, area, whatever. And this option here, the batch or the print all curves, will print, I'll overwrite test, will print all of the curves on a separate page. So to understand the power of this now, what we're not doing is having to create loads of dozens of exports from P6, different, or Microsoft Project, different sets of data, export them to Excel, create our graph, print it out, do it again for another filter, do it again for another filter. This is all one click. All the data's within inside of ProjectTracker and there for us to use as we want. So if we just find that output now, it's a bigger output obviously. So page 1 is our whole program, page 2 is this one here, page 3. So we're getting a different graph for each trade or area, and that's really powerful. This is, you know, where you really start to save time using ProjectTracker. So thanks for listening.